Happy Wednesday! It's me again, back with Charlotte for our last chapter for the week, which is chapter 8. Since it is Wednesday, it is also Backwards Day. Which I know this doesn't look too bad, but if you remember from class, there's the front of my shirt right there. It feels super tight at my neck, but I'm wearing it. I could not get my pants to go on backwards. Kenan was able to do that once when he was little. I am not able to do that right now, so my jeans are still on the right way. I couldn't get them to flip-flop backwards over, but you might have better luck with that if you're wearing sweatpants or something at home, something nice, comfy, cozy. I hope your assignments are coming along well. You had heard Chapter 6 and Chapter 7, where you were working on some drawings for me and working on some summarizing. Maybe you wrote a question down here or there that you had about it, that you were able to come up with something for it too. That would be super great. And if not, that's okay. Don't stress. In English, I hope you're enjoying the picture prompts and writing some fun stuff with that. I think each day I try to ask you to include a mystery word into your writing. So I think today's word is sunshine. So whenever you look at your picture prompt, see if you can squeeze the word sunshine in there. And then I gave you a skill to kind of work with that for English, which I think it's adjectives, which I love adjectives. They always make everything so much better when you're writing. Remember, there's different kinds of adjectives too. So when you're writing about that, try to see if you can stick those in there to make your picture and your description come across a little bit more clear too. So our last chapter for the week, I know, I'm sorry. We'll pick back up with it again with our assignments next week, but this one is called Fudge Mania, which is the title of our whole entire book. So Charlotte, if you are ready, as she is now facing you, I think she is, we'll start chapter 8. You're in such a bad mood, Sheila asked me the next morning. It must be the weather, I grumbled. Actually, it had nothing to do with the weather, which was as gray and damp as usual. It had to do with my brilliant idea from last night. Somehow when I woke up this morning, my poison gas story sounded really weird. I wasn't sure Jimmy would buy it, and where would that leave me? After breakfast, I went back to bed. Dad says, falling asleep when your body's not tired is a way of avoiding your problems. Maybe he's right, because when I woke up an hour later, I didn't know what to do about Jimmy. I looked out the window, and the sun was starting to make an effort to break through the clouds. Maybe I shouldn't worry yet, I thought. A lot can happen in a week. The Tubmans might decide that they've had enough of Maine, and they might be gone by the time Jimmy even gets here. I got out my baseball cards and went down to the porch. I was laying them out alphabetically by players' last names when Mitzi showed up. I still can't believe Mitzi's grandfather is Big Apeful. I wonder why Mrs. A didn't tell us about him, unless she's sick of people falling all over themselves when they find out about who he is. I suppose I'd feel the same way if Dad were famous. Mitzi looked at my baseball cards. That used to be Grandpa, she said, when she spotted Big. What do you mean, used to be? I asked. He's still your grandpa, isn't he? Yes, but he's different now. He has more fat. He was probably a lot younger when they took this picture, I said, holding up the card. She nodded. Where's Fudge? He's planting a garden with his babysitter. Where's the garden? Behind the house. Will you take me? I started to tell her that she could go by herself. After all, she'd walked all the way to our house on her own. But she looked at me with these big eyes and, well, sometimes, she said, monsters live behind houses. And I didn't bring my monster spray. Monster spray, I said. Grandma makes it for me. It's a secret formula. When you spray the monsters, they melt. Sounds like an interesting product. Dad would have a field day with it. I thought, he's in advertising and commercials are his business. I can see it now. Mitzi's monster spray, made from a grandmother's secret formula. Spray twice a day and melt your monsters away. Mitzi held out her hand. Will you walk me around the house? How could I refuse? I walked her to the backyard where Sheila and Fudge were hard at work. They'd already dug out a plot of land, and now they were lining up rows of pink rocks from the beach. You're planting rocks? I asked. Yes, Fudge said. Rocks don't need sun or water. They don't get slugs, animals don't eat them, and they never die. I looked at Sheila. It was his idea, she said. It was my idea, repeated Fudge. I like this garden, Mitzi said, and she got down on her hands and knees to help. Mom and Dad are going to be surprised when they see your garden, I told Fudge. I know, he said. They're going to be surprised that you dug up this much grass to plant rocks, especially since this backyard doesn't belong to us. Who does it belong to, Fudge asked. The people who own the house, I told him. So, he said, the people who own this house will be happy when they see my garden. Maybe, I told them, or maybe they'll say, who dug up our backyard? Really, Peter? Sheila said. You're such a worrier. Yeah, Pete, Fudge said. You worry too much. I don't worry, I told them. I think ahead. When the rocks were all planted, 6 rows of them, with 10 in each row. Sounds like an array. A little bit of math in there. Maybe you know the answer? Mitzi scooped up a handful of dirt. Now let's make mud pie. Mud pie, Fudge said. That's what they have for dessert at Tico Taco, right, Pete? But it's not made of mud, I told them. Then why do they call it mud pie, he asked. Because it looks like mud, I explained. Yum! Mud pie, Mitzi said, licking the dirt off her fingers. Spit that out right now, Sheila told her. That's full of bacteria. Yum! Bacteria, Mitzi said. I love bacteria. Don't you, Fudge? Bacteria's my favorite, Fudge said, and then he looked up at me. What's bacteria, Pete? They're like germs, I told him. Yum. Germs, Mitzi said. Germs are really tasty. Cooties are tasty too, Fudge said. And slugs. Slugs are fat and juicy. You two are disgusting, Sheila said. Germy, germy germs and sluggy, sluggy slugs, Mitzi sang. Yummy, yummy, down my tummy, Fudge held his arms straight out at the sides and began to twirl. Mitzi copied him. They twirled around and around, faster and faster, until they got so dizzy they fell to the ground, screaming and laughing. Then they started all over again. Stop that! Sheila shouted. We can't, Fudge yelled, twirling and whirling. It's Fudge-a-mania! Mitzi shrieked. Once you get it, you can never stop. I'm going to count to 3, Sheila shouted. But Sheila's threats didn't bother them. You better watch out, Fudge sang, because it's catching. He rolled over to me and swatted my behind. Now you've got it, Pete. You've got Fudge-a-mania too. I started twirling, slowly at first, then faster and faster until everything was a blur. I twirled over to Sheila and smacked her on the back. Look out, Sheila! You just caught it from me. I did not catch anything from you, Sheila shouted. I will never catch anything from you. The door to the house slammed and out marched Libby. She was wearing her Snoopy t-shirt. It's so big that it hangs down to her knees, and she stomped across the yard. Just what exactly is going on here? She asked. She didn't wait for an answer. And how am I supposed to sleep with this racket? Sleep? Mitzi asked. Now? Yes, now. It's only 10 o'clock in the morning. You sleep until 10 o'clock in the morning, Mitzi said. Like she couldn't believe it. Libby put her hands on her hips and glared. I try. But morning is the best time to play, Mitzi said. Who is this kid? Libby asked Sheila. Mitzi April, Sheila said. A neighbor? I'm 5, Mitzi told her, and I walked here all by myself, and I didn't even need anyone to show me the way. I'll tell you what you need, Libby began, but Mitzi didn't wait to hear what Libby had to say. She raced off shouting, It's Fudge-a-mania! Fudge followed Mitzi. Sheila chased both of them. You're all maniacs! Libby shouted. Fudge-a-maniacs? I added. Either Libby didn't get my joke or she decided to ignore it because she said, This is all your fault, Peter. Chaos follows you and your family. Chaos, I said. I don't believe I know him. That got Libby really mad. Chaos, she yelled. A state of utter confusion or disorder. Then she stomped back to the house and went inside, letting the screen door slam behind her. I couldn't help laughing. When Mom and Dad saw Fudge's garden, I expected them to let him really have it. They've always taught us to respect other people's property, but when Fudge explained his reasons for planting rocks, Mom said, That's very good thinking. A good babysitter encourages creative thinking, Sheila said. But doesn't this show a lack of respect for other people's property, I asked. Well, Mom said, it would have been better if Fudge had checked with us before he started, but his idea was so well thought out. Rocks don't need sun or water, and animals can't eat them. Yeah, I said. I've heard all about it. Grandma wandered across the yard with Fuzzy Sr. She took one look at Fudge's garden and said, "Isn't my grandson an original, Buzzy?" "Actually, it was mostly my idea," Sheila said. "That's not what you said this morning," I shouted at Sheila. "This morning you said it was his idea." "Just shut your face for once, Peter Hatcher," she shouted back. "Who's gonna make me?" I yelled. "Children," Grandma said. "Let's be kind." "Kind is a word your grandson doesn't know, Muriel," Sheila shouted. "He knows it," Grandma said, "but sometimes he forgets what it means." "And she doesn't?" I asked. "Sometimes she forgets too," Grandma admitted. "I don't see why you two can't get along as well as your dogs," Buzzy Sr. said. I looked towards the house. Turtle and Jake were playing together. "You'd think Turtle would show more loyalty. You'd think he'd understand about Sheila and me." Tootsie grabbed my leg. "Up, P, up. Not now," I said. Now. But I wasn't in the mood for her baby tricks. So I shook her up and she fell on her backside. It took a few seconds for her to react. Then she scrunched up her face. Her mouth started twitching. Her breath came fast. She made her little hands into fists. She shut her eyes tight and opened her mouth. Wah! Once she got going, you could hear her a mile away. "What happened, Tootsie Pie?" Dad asked as he lifted her into her arms. Tootsie kept screaming, and Mom looked at me. "Was that necessary, Peter?" "Was what necessary?" I said. Mom just shook her head. "You see how much trouble you cause for everyone," Sheila shouted at me. "How come I'm getting blamed for this?" I thought. "All I did was ask one simple question." Fudge held his arms out to Mom. "Up," he said. "Up, up, up." "You want to play baby?" Mom asked. "Goo goo gaga," Fudge said, jumping into Mom's arms. "You're getting heavy," Mom said, planting a kiss on his head. "But not too heavy for Mommy, right?" I shook my head, then turned away and watched Dad galloping around the yard with Tootsie on his shoulders. In a minute, Tootsie was laughing. I remember when Dad carried Fudge that way, and there's even a photo of me on his shoulders, too. I'm laughing really hard and grabbing Dad's hair. He had a lot more to grab back then. "Go, horsey!" Tootsie called as Dad galloped in another direction. Being a baby is so easy, I thought. Riding around on Dad's shoulders, knowing he'll never let you fall, and doing and saying whatever you please, without worrying about what the other guy will think. Grandma put her arm around my shoulder. "It's not easy being the firstborn, is it?" I looked at her and smiled. She knew exactly what I was feeling. And I hate to say it, but that's the end of Chapter 8. Just these 3 chapters for this week. So do your super best at summarizing them. Maybe throwing in a question here or there that you might have. I know I always have questions when I read, and I know we talk about that all the time. We try to go over some of the words, so if there's something else that you don't know or that you don't understand, maybe your parents could help you out with that, or you could even call me and we could talk about it. I can't wait to see your drawings because they are always super fabulous. And maybe, just maybe, one time you could draw a picture of me and Charlotte sitting in a chair reading to you. I bet those would be super great. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. I miss you bunches. And I can't wait until we can get together again. And that time we'll be reading chapters 9, 10, and 11. So we have a little bit more to go on to our book. But I do miss you. I hope you're being safe and happy and healthy. And I hope you're listening to your parents. I love you and I miss you. Bye.